Hi everyone, Reima here again. Today we'll continue our Stream Deck series and show you how to utilize it in everyday office work. You may have been following my previous videos where we have covered lean wastes. You know that feeling when you are doing the same repetitive task day after day and think, this could be automated? Well, today I'll show you through a step-by-step example how Stream Deck can streamline these routine tasks and significantly reduce waste in the office. Let's go through a concrete case. We'll create a report where we fetch data from a browser and process it in Excel. You can replicate everything I do in this video at home or at work and adapt the principles to your own workflows. My team and I have managed to automate quite a bit of tedious tasks using Stream Deck, and work has become much more enjoyable. That's why I seriously recommend considering getting a few Stream Decks for the whole team. It pays for itself faster than you'd think. Before we dive in, a couple of notes. When creating long command sequences, it's best to start by creating a dedicated folder for the project. Then proceed step by step. Test each step separately, and only when everything works, combine them all into one sequence. Another thing is that we should always try to work with keyboard commands, whatever we're doing. In theory, we can create commands based on mouse clicks, but what often happens is that when something changes, the coordinates of different buttons and fields on the screen change too. For example, the web browser might open in a non-maximized window when your macro is based on a maximized window size. Or you disconnect your laptop from the dock, causing windows to open on the laptop screen when they normally would open on the external monitor. And again, the coordinates are off. Most of the time isn't actually spent writing Stream Deck commands, but finding the right keyboard shortcuts. Although you can find good guides for the most common programs online, it still takes time to figure out which key combinations get you where. The same goes for navigating program windows. You need to test, for instance, how many tabs or arrow key presses it takes to get to the desired field. But don't be scared. This work pays for itself many times over. The more often you do the same task, the more you benefit from automation. And best of all, you get to fix those small annoying things that tend to bug you while working. Without further ado, let's get to the case example. Let's start by creating a new folder, opening it and dragging the SuperMacro plugin onto the first empty button. Let's open the browser and figure out which address we need to go to in order to download our desired report. In this case it's trends.google.com, and from there, country equals United States. Let's copy the URL. Let's go back to Stream Deck and SuperMacro. Let's write the title number 1 open Google Trends and go down a bit. Now we need to define the command that makes Windows open the default browser and then our desired web address. The best way to open programs is the key combination Windows plus R. So let's write it in the field for our first command. Double curly bracket, win, closing curly bracket, opening curly bracket, R, closing curly bracket, closing curly bracket. There we go. Happy days. Command sequences sometimes run faster than Windows or programs can react. That's why we always add a small pause in places where command execution takes longer than a blink of an eye. Windows plus R launches the run command, but at least for me it takes a few tenths of a second to open, especially when I'm recording this video at the same time. So now we manually write the command to wait a moment. The command is double curly bracket, pause, colon, 200. which means 200 milliseconds. Then closing curly bracket, and let's press return to get to a new line. Then we'll add the text that we want the macro to write in the Windows Run dialog. That's of course the web address we copied to the clipboard. So now it's pasted here by pressing Ctrl and V. Next, we want to press the Run dialog's OK button, which simply happens by pressing Enter. We can now click the Capture button and press Enter on the keyboard. This way, the Enter press gets recorded in the macro. Most key combinations can be recorded with the Capture button. One exception is Windows key combinations, because the Windows key works kind of above the Stream Deck program window. Now our first step is ready and we can test that it works. We can keep this SuperMacro editing window open, or we can go back to our folder view. It doesn't matter. In any case, we have a SuperMacro button ready in our Stream Deck and we can press it now. Yes, seems to open the run command and web address correctly. Note that this command opens your default browser. My default browser happens to be Edge. Next, we need to get to Google Trends search field. That happens by pressing the Tab key enough times. However, there's one problem. If it happens that the browser window is small, the page content loses the top Edge elements: Home, Explore and Trending Now. This reduces the normal number of tab presses needed to reach the search field. Therefore, it's best for us to standardize the window size to large. For that purpose, we have the Window Mover and Resizer plugin. Let's drag it onto the next empty button. There we go. Let's write the title number 02 Maximize Browser. Select specific application and choose our browser from the app name menu. In my case it's MS Edge. Then select the screen. In my case its name is empty. Then from Resize window select Maximize and also check Make Window Topmost. Good. Now we can test again. Let's deliberately make the browser a bit small and press this button on the device. Yes, it maximizes the window size. Happy days! The next step is to go to the search field and write the search term. Let's put their title number 03, search for Stream Deck. Let's see. The key combination that ensures Edge's content window is activated is Ctrl plus F6. So let's record that with the Capture button. Then let's try how many times we need to press Tab to get to the search field. In my case it seems to be 9 presses. So I'll record 9 tabs. Then enter the text Stream Deck. Just in case, add a little pause so the whole text has time to enter the search field. And finally the Enter press. Let's test, and yes, it works. Then we want to add another search term so we can compare the popularity of Google searches. First we need to move in the browser to the Add Search Term field. You already know how to do this. I'll repeat things the same way as before. For me at least, this transition requires 11 tab presses. Then let's add that second search term and press Enter. So let's drag a new SuperMacro, title it and put our desired text in that short press macro field and the Enter after it. Let's actually put a pause in there too. Good, we can move forward. Now we want to download the report from interest over time. It's this downward pointing arrow here. Again, let's try how many times we need to press tab to get to that button. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You notice that when you press tab slowly, once you get to the graph, the browser starts showing small pop-up texts at the question mark and download symbol. At the download, for example, it said CSV, indicating that from that point we can download a CSV file. These text hints don't show at all in Chrome browser, for example, and that's why I consider Edge better for this purpose. So, we'll add another SuperMacro, put 8 tabs there and enter. When we test, we first need to back up a bit, search again for continuous improvement, so we are at the same starting point. Okay, things seem to work. Now we notice that the browser downloads the report and offers to open it as soon as we just click on it. So next, we'll make a button for opening the report. Of course, you need to have Excel installed to repeat this the same way. In Edge, the command Ctrl+J activates the list of downloads, and after that we only need a small pause in between and pressing enter. So let's record Ctrl+J, type pause 1000 and enter. Let's test and the file opens in Excel. Great. At this point, it might be a good idea to put the macros done so far into one bundle. So let's drag multi-action onto a free button, give it a name, trend search, and give it some fun color. Let's copy our first SuperMacro, open multi-action and paste the SuperMacro. Add a delay and adjust it long enough. Go back and get the next one, and so on. When all macros are copied and delays added, let's test. We can test several times. If something seems to be wrong, 90% of the time the reason is that some delay is too short or some of the macros are needing a pause. At least go through those. Of course, there might also be a typo here and there. If after a few tests everything seems to work, we can make room in the folder by removing these macros. Okay, happy days. Now we can continue with Excel stuff. In Excel we need to separate the texts on different rows into columns. To do that, we first need to select all content we have in column A. Make sure we are in cell A1 with Ctrl+Home. Then select the table content with Ctrl+Shift+End. Let's make a macro for that, title it, record the commands and test. Then let's split the text into columns. Open the function selection by pressing the Alt key, then A and then E. Confirm that the delimited option is OK by pressing the D key and move forward with Enter. Then tell Excel that the information in the row is always separated by a comma. So press C and Enter. Now everything essential is in order. Press Enter one more time. So let's record this procedure in a new macro. Note that Alt must be written manually too. It can't be recorded with the capture button because Alt works kind of above all programs, including Stream Deck. So write manually curly brackets, Alt and closing curly brackets. I also write a pause after Alt A-E because my computer lags at this point. This way I ensure that the text to columns window has time to open before the macro feeds it with commands D and C. Then we want the columns to be wide enough that we can see what's written in them. Make sure again that we are in cell A1 with the key combination Ctrl plus Home. Then select column A by pressing Ctrl plus space. Then add columns B and C to the selection by pressing Shift and right arrow twice. Adjust column width by selecting Alt H for Home, F for Format and I for adjusting width. And just repeat this command series in SuperMacro. You already know how to do that. Alright, moving on. And now we need some space at the top of the workbook, so we can add the formulas there. First, jump to cell A1 with the familiar command Ctrl plus Home. Then add a row with Ctrl plus plus. Excel asks which direction to shift existing cells. Answer down by pressing R. Then repeat the same command a few times by pressing Ctrl plus Y until we have a suitable number of empty rows. Now we have a command here that we can't capture with the SuperMacro's capture button. Namely, Ctrl plus plus gets seemingly captured, but it comes in a form that doesn't work in the macro. So we need to manually write that line. Curly bracket, Control, 1 closing curly bracket, opening curly bracket, OEM underscore plus, closing curly bracket, closing curly bracket. Okay, at this point we need to give Excel some extra time to react, so let's add a 1 second pause. Then R. The rest of the commands you can record using the capture button. Enter followed by a few Ctrl Ys. And again test, and again it works. Happy days. Then let's write headers for the calculations that we'll add next. Some stream deck, some continuous improvement, and some total. After each header we press enter, so don't forget those from the macro either. Next, we want to get to cell B1 because that's where we'll be calculating the first sum. We could go there with arrows, but I prefer to use Excel's go-to function. It starts with the function button F5. Then write the cell's letter and number, so B and 1, and press enter. Now we got to cell B1. Then just write the formula that calculates the sum of Stream Deck search counts for us. And that formula is equals sum, open parenthesis, B8, colon, B1000, close parenthesis, and enter after it. Similarly, the second search term sum formula, and enter. And finally the sum of these two sums. Write the same formulas in the macro. Let's still jump to cell C1 and add a formula that calculates Stream Deck searches share of all searches sum. Similarly calculate continuous improvement searches share. By now you already know how to change this into macro commands. Then let's finalize the appearance of the share calculations by formatting them as percentages. Jump to the upper one and select it and the lower cell. You know this already. Then make the key combination Ctrl-Shift%. This does the percentage formatting. Note that this can be recorded with the capture button, but on my keyboard the percent button is 5, but it might be different on yours, depending on the language of your keyboard. You can again test how this newest command works. Of course, we want to save the file. First open the Save As window, Alt, then F for File, A for Save As, and O for Browse. I at least need to put pauses again between these button presses so that Excel has time to open each menu or window before it gets the next command. Are we already at step 17? Goodness. At this point, we search for the directory where we want to save this file. Jump to the address bar with Ctrl+L. Enter as text our desired directory. For me, it's C drive's trend folder. Finalize with Enter. There we go. Now we need to change the file format from CSV to XLSX. For that we need to navigate a bit. Press the combination Alt+T to jump to Save As Type menu. Open the menu with the down arrow, then jump to the top row because that's XLSX. So jumping works with one press of the page up button. Confirm the selection with Enter and with another Enter to save. When we've tested these separate macros a few times, we dare to combine them under the same multi-action tool. And hey, nothing else here but to test how the whole package works. How much time did this take to make? An hour? And the time saving in that this kind of report comes with pressing one button, would it be 5 or 10 minutes per time, maybe? So, if you or someone else in your team does something like this daily, the time you invest in developing Stream Deck automation like this easily is saved back in a couple of weeks. If you liked it, give this video a thumbs up. If you want to learn more, subscribe to the channel. You can find Stream Deck devices in the video description and pinned comment. See you again. Bye.